Hey, kids, it's the Matt Murphy Radio Show underway for another day. Happy to have you with us on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Allow me, if you will, to get the pleasantries out of the way. Here we are, and here we go. It's 12:06. Our episode 493 commences right now, this Wednesday, January 17, 2024. You can find us on a variety of platforms, most importantly, the radio, where many of you, perhaps you've lost power over the last several days, and you're thinking, what in the world is going on in Middle Tennessee and around the globe? Well, you can find out on your radio station of your choosing, and that would be Super Talk 99.7 WTN. You can also find us on a variety of streaming platforms. Obviously, that's important if you're on the go and you want to get information at your fingertips. Find us anywhere you stream information, news, or music, right? If you stream something from somewhere, for example, iHeart or Spotify, we're there. Just type in Super Talk 99.7 WTN and take us where you go. And then, of course, there's Super Talk TV. For better or worse, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Super Talk TV is up and running. There is the F&M Bank chat line powering Super Talk TV. You're invited to participate in the conversation via the chat line. Understand that it is an unmonitored conversation for the most part. In other words, I see it on occasion, but for the most part, I'm not communicating there. If I'm communicating not on these airwaves offline, typically that's happening on the super text line, and that is 615-737-9986, the same as the telephone number you're invited to call or super text at any point during these proceedings. We would love to hear from you. Super talk and super text at 615-737-9986. So I feel the need, well, a couple of things. One, no Mac Morey. But we do have news this afternoon. Have we figured out who's doing news this afternoon?
No.
You don't know?
It's convoluted.
Yes, exactly. It's the same reason that I pitched to you for the same reason, because I'm not entirely sure.
A little confused on that point.
I'm not entirely sure what to say about all of that, but I do know that there will be news this afternoon. And we will announce that presently. Bell K's behind the glass, making sure that everything that comes out of our speaker sounds as good as possible. I feel like I haven't seen Bell in a month of Sundays now. He was off for the holiday Monday, and then he was here yesterday, but I was in for Brian Wilson yesterday. I've been here all week, and so we kind of passed each other like ships in the night, hopefully not in the Red Sea. More on that later. And we haven't had a chance to talk. How's your life been? You said you had trouble. You couldn't get out of the driveway
Monday,
but you had no problems yesterday?
Yeah, Monday it was like I tried for a good 20 minutes and it just wasn't happening, so I finally gave up. And then I was expecting issues trying to get out of the driveway yesterday and right out. But today when I went to leave, Xfinity had their truck parked right in front of my driveway for I don't know what reason, but he was kind enough to move it quickly.
Well, I mean, the Xfinity folks are Johnny on the spot. Let me tell you something. I don't get paid to do this. I know Dan Mandis does. But if Xfinity's listening, maybe add on to your advertising budget on Super Talk 99.7 WTN, because I have Xfinity in my home, and I've never lost Xfinity in my home. I've never lost power. I live close enough in proximity to the Providence Mall in Mount Juliet, and I think more importantly, and more to the point, I live in fairly close proximity to a huge senior living facility. And I believe for those two reasons, I never lose power, right? So, or at least I have not lost power in the year plus that I have lived at my location. Even last year's ice storm, where a lot of folks lost power, even when NES was having rolling blackouts and the TVA announced that they were going to have rolling blackouts during that period last year, I never lost power, and I believe it's because probably more the mall than the senior living facility, but I would choose to believe that we live in a world where it's the opposite. That said, not lost power and never lose internet capability. I initially considered doing the show Monday from home. I'm glad I did not for two reasons. Primarily, reason number one was what you just heard in the open. That exchange and that sit down with those two youngsters was fabulous. I'll explain more what happened there for those who missed Monday's show in just a moment. Number two was that we lost a little bit of our internet capability, and I'll give Xfinity a thumbs up and a kudos, and Dan Mandis, I'm sure, would say the same thing. He is in part paid to do so, but he wouldn't tell you anything that's not true, and I'm a testimony to that because we lost our Xfinity internet this morning at around 8 o'clock. I immediately received a notification that we had lost it via text, And they kept me notified like regularly and said, hey, if you need somebody, it was like they were counselors. Hey, if you need somebody to talk to because you don't have any internet, just let us know. Well, we're here to help. If you want an update, just type in outage and we'll give you an update, even though we tell you that as soon as it's back on, we'll tell you that it's back on. But if you feel like we're not being as responsive as we possibly can, just let us know. I understand that all of this is AI, but it's kind of cool. And they let us know that they were back. So there you go. You don't realize how dependent you are on the intraweb until you lose the intraweb, especially when it's everything, except for, and this is a plug for us, the radio. I would encourage you, especially if you're like me, where everything from an information or a news gathering standpoint comes from a power source, that you find yourself an old school radio, battery powered radio, and make sure that you keep that around and keep some batteries around just in case you lose that power. I understand that you listen on your phone. I understand that you listen online or podcast or perhaps you're watching on Super Talk TV. But there's always that fallback. That's what we are here for, especially in times of need like we've had over the last several days, or in other, weather situations like the tornadoes that happened recently. Whatever it might be, we're here for you at Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Is Dan out of the motel yet?
I would assume so, but oh yeah, he is, because I've talked to him a couple of times, and he had a pipe burst that was flooding the basement, which is where his studio was. So he was first freaking out. First, he was freaking out, thinking it was going to just ruin his studio, but then he realized it wasn't quite as bad as he was expecting. So,
oh no,
yeah,
you got to keep that water drippy. That's bad. I'm sorry for Dan. I'm sorry for that.
He was dealing with that, and obviously kind of
he probably wants to go back to the hotel.
He probably does.
I mean, as soon as you get home and you see water and pipes and all of that, you're like, oh, I'm just going to pack it up and go on back to the Best Western Plus. Thank you very
Amy
much.
was frantic about it, so he was trying to get it all taken care of.
Oh man. I bet that's bad news. We got all of the I did a lot, my back and my shoulders would like you to know that I did a decent amount of snow shoveling, and I guess I'm going to have to buy an actual snow shovel. It was pathetic. There's nothing. I guess there are things more pathetic. I don't want to be hyperbolic, but it felt pretty pathetic that I was trying to shovel my driveway with my regular square shovel that's about 12 inches.
Not quite efficient enough, is it?
Oh, man, it was just awful.
Just buy one of those snow plows.
You know what? I started to pull out the backpack vac, or the backpack blower. I do have one of those that goes on the back. One of those big, I think it's a Husqvarna, one of those big industrial jobs. Decided against that. I said to hell with it. You know what? You know what? Who's my friend in all of this?
Who?
The sun.
But yes,
the sun will take care of it at some point. But I did.
Yeah, you don't have any problem getting in or out, but because you drive a tank.
That's true.
But the wife, she needs. Make sure.
Well, I was doing it for her because when she got home the other night, she was out of town. She yanks in here on Sunday night when all of the snow's coming down at about 11 o'clock at night and barely made it in. The conditions were getting pretty bad that night. She should not have been on the road, but she was. Yet she could not go up the driveway. So she got in the driveway. We were worried about parking on the street because I was worried that there might be a snowplow situation and that's going to, possibly ding the car or whatever. But she did get in the driveway. I was trying to figure it out for her, but yeah, she ain't going anywhere.
Yeah, because you got kind of an angle on your driveway.
Oh, yeah. We could sled down it.
Yep.
No question. I mean, it's no MTSU Murfreesboro Hill. But you can
what is?
But what is? I mean, honestly. So I say all that to say this. Two things. One, a lack of internet leads us to a real open forum today. Because while I had 5G on my phone and I could do a little bit of show research on the phone, I have not done virtually no show research for the show today from noon until 3. Number two, actually, I just thought of a third, so there's 3 things. No, I just thought of a fourth. There's now 4 things, and we're on number 2. Number 2, we were expecting a visit with Governor Bill Lee today.
Oh, it's not going to happen?
It is not going to happen. Casey and Elizabeth and the team, the communications team in Governor Lee's office, talked to us yesterday and indicated that they had so much going on with the weather. They're trying to, and you can understand this. I mean, the dynamics.
No, they need to get their priorities straight.
Well, I mean, you tell them that, and I'll sick you on them if we don't get a reschedule pretty soon. You know, the last time we tried to have Governor Lee on, remember, he couldn't hear us.
Oh yeah,
and that was on their end. And I'm not throwing anyone under the bus, but it was not us because we took calls like right after that.
Yeah,
and we could hear the governor fine. The governor, for whatever reason, could not hear us. That was just before the beginning of the year. And so we rescheduled to the 17th. We were planning on talking about legislative session. We were going to talk about certain economic issues in the state, immigration issues in the state, and obviously we would talk about his proposal that we get more educational choice through scholarship, through his education scholarship plan. That will have to be delayed, and we will let you know as soon as we get it rescheduled when we can expect Governor Bill Lee on the show. I would say Senator Marsha Blackburn, this was number 3, is coming on the show tomorrow. And we're also scheduling John Rose on the show tomorrow as well.
Thought you were going to say Justin Jones.
No, I wish. I've invited Jones and Gloria Johnson. And
don't touch him.
That's so good. It's such a great story. If you've not heard the story, Representative Jody Barrett was on with us and said that he was on the floor of the House of Representatives. And you know how it goes. You're getting ready. Session's about to gavel in. Everybody's milling about. You're ready to get into your seats. And you're saying, hey, how's it going? What's going on with you? What's going on with you? And Jody said he walked up to Justin and just kind of put his hand on his back. It was like, hey, Justin, how's it going? Good morning. And the response was, don't touch me.
Don't touch me.
And he's like, whoa, hey, easy now. Do not lay your hands on me. And Jody said that he looked him in the eye and kind of put his hand on his arm and said, you need to get some help. That's pretty good. Beautiful. But most importantly for the opening segment of the show, what did our last time on mean? So Monday, for those who missed it, Monday we had a show. A lot of people were off. We were not. We were doing some snow coverage, and we were talking about MLK Day and talking about a number of other things. And I look up at one point, and I see 2 children looking through one of our windows at me. And I don't know these children. And I'm going to admit to you that I occasionally I don't have any kids, and so sometimes I get nervous talking to kids. I mean, I talk to governors, we talk to senators, we talk to any one of you that want to call the show at 615-737-9986. I have had opportunity to talk to a lot of folks over my life, and not many people make me nervous. But talking to 10-year-olds makes me nervous for some reason. Because I don't know where to go. I don't know how to talk to kids. And
you just tell them fart jokes and they laugh.
Well, I mean, I think I'm pretty good at talking to kids, but I admit that I get a little nervous when I talk to kids. You're still here? Have we figured out who's doing news this afternoon? By the way, there's Mac Morey. He's running around. Have we figured out?
John Michael is.
John Michael's. Yes. Okay. Well, I've never had the honor of having John Michael on the show doing news for me, so.
He does fill-ins sometimes. He just hadn't done it on this show yet.
I know. I've heard him do fill-ins, and he does great. I don't know, outside of Ken Weaver, I don't know of a better news voice on the... Oh, hey, Mac. How are you? Nice to see you.
That's just rude.
Here, wait. I just thought of it. No, I'm sorry, Mac. I apologize.
No, it's okay. He's still sulking over his bulldog.
No, listen. I take it back.
Oh, wow.
I was wrong. There is obviously a better and more credible voice than John Michael on the radio station. Joan Jones.
What a douche.
Oh, wait. In all seriousness, Mac, Pamela Furr can occasionally do some news.
Just throw salt in his eyes.
Oh, wait, okay.
Stop it.
No,
Stop
seriously. ABC News is worse than you.
Oh, there you go.
Mac knows how much I love him. I got my lips pooched out because he's got to go somewhere. Where's he going? He's taking off?
Got to take the dog to the dog park.
Let us know if that lady's there, and let us know if she lets you in, would you? So anyway, kids walk up. Do you have this? No, we don't need the exchange. It's too late. these kids walk up, and I'm on the radio, and they're looking at me, and they're looking nervous. They look kind of, I mean, like most children look when they're around me, kind of nervous and ready to run, and stranger danger. And I wave them in while we're on the air, and I say, "Come in here." And one is named Jamie, and I forget the other one's name, and I apologize. Do you remember?
I don't.
But they have a podcast that Dave was telling me about, and so Dave is our one of our illustrious production directors at Cumulus Nashville. He does a lot of the commercials and whatnot that you hear on the radio station, and just basically keeps the wheels going. And so these kids come in that I've never seen in my life, and I was like, come in. And we're live on the radio, and they sit down, and I was like, is everything okay? And they're like, we've lost our dad. And I'm like, what? You were listening. This is what happened.
Yeah.
We lost our dad.
We can't find him.
We can't find our dad.
He said he was going to the bathroom.
And so I said, who's your dad? And they said his full name.
His full name.
And it's Dave. And it's like gave his social security number. Here are his credit cards. And
his driver's license number.
What happened? He said he was going to the bathroom, and now we've checked all the bathrooms, and we can't find him. And I'm thinking, well, many a good man has been lost in a bathroom, and it was always intentional. Right?
Yeah, he was in the unisex bathroom, which is a single occupancy, but if it doesn't say it's a bathroom on the door.
Right,
like
so they
closet.
checked the normal bathroom, the multi-stall unit, and Dave was in the other bathroom. All was well, but Dave came out and was mortified that his kids had busted in on a live radio show. And I said, no, I told them to come in. It's perfectly fine. And if I could remember one of their names, I'm looking it up right now because I want to remember this because Dave said that they have they've got a podcast that's up and going. And I forget where Dave told me about this. I'll find it.
Do you want to know the title of the show?
Oh, yeah. It's episode 493. Let's get back on track. Uncharted Waters, as I have no idea what we're talking about next. That's the MO for the entire day. Let's see if the show's quality improves as a result of zero preparation in advance of this 3 hours together. But show 493, as always, broadcast on multiple platforms to include Super Talk TV. Bell K, while he chooses not to participate on the television side of things, ergo why we call him Headless Bell, he does title them. And today's show is titled
Matt Murphy, demoted back to his own show. The Libertarian Lunch, noon to 3, chicken fingers.
Did you say chicken fingers?
Yeah.
I've learned not to ask. It's 12:23 on Super Talk. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy. Now is the time to think about that heater because while it might be working A-OK presently, conditions are such where it could go out at any time. And, we laugh and we talk. And, during the summer, I said, if you're hot and sweaty, call Jeff Eddy, Efficient Heating and Cooling. And during the winter, I like to say, if your heater's not ready, call Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling. But I want to get serious for a moment because the conditions that we're dealing with right now, when it's 8 degrees outside in the middle of the night, it is a serious thing if your heater goes out. Jeff Eddy is ready for you. His teams are ready for you. They will get to where you are. They will fix what ails your heater, and if it comes to replacement, they'll tell you it's replacement time, and they'll get that done jiffy quick as well. Now, here's the rub. They never charge overtime anytime on overnights or weekends because they don't believe in it. Jeff Eddy doesn't believe that your heater knows what time it is when it goes out, and he does not believe that you should pay more because it goes out during non-office hours. Jeff Eddy's Efficient Heating and Cooling will never charge you more than $125 for a maintenance call. That's their commitment to you. But for your heater issues, it's time to call the best. They can get you back up and running with speed and efficiency. Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling. EfficientHVAC.net is the website, EfficientHVAC.net, or call 615-784-4424. A Diamond contractor with Mitsubishi Electric and Elite Pro partner with Rheem. It's Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy and you. It's 12:27, almost 12:28. Good afternoon. Glad you're with us. Thank you for being here. Hope you're well. Hope everybody's keeping warm and bundled up. It is frigid outside, even for this part of the world at this time of year. I guess the low got down to about 10 degrees where I was. They said it got down to 8 or so in some parts of the world. Right now, it is a balmy 24 degrees, getting up to a right warm 29 before it settles back. You know what the low is tonight? Wait a minute. No, it got down to -1. Wait a minute. My forecast says it got down to -1 today. I don't believe that. But it's getting down to 15
That's
degrees
what it was
tonight.
when I got up.
It was -1?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, maybe I had that wrong then. I didn't think it got lower than 8 degrees in Mount Juliet. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay.
Well, I'm in Madison, though, so it could have been that's a pretty big difference, though.
Those low-lying areas in Madison. We're not doing the feels like, Bell.
I know.
Just doing the regular thing. And
I went out on the porch last night to bring something in, and when I inhaled, I thought my lungs were going to freeze. It was so cold.
Phil Long hates me, as usual, and he writes in saying that I'm not pleasing him. Man, you're so flipping annoying. Go back to Alabama. I'm listening to Chris Plant. That guy's got it going on. What did I do?
Well, I don't give you permission to leave, so you won't be going anywhere.
Well, I mean, I don't plan on going anywhere. I just don't understand what I did to upset Phil so much in the
Maybe
first segment of the show.
you were annoying or something. I don't know.
I suppose so. So, Phil, I apologize. I'm not your cup of tea. You've made it quite clear on the super text line over the years. Matt Murphy, you're such a dingleberry, he wrote on December 6th. I could go back and read some of Phil's previous. Please not Matt Murphy. He's like being left with a bad babysitter and the parents don't know it. That was December 19th.
So he's saying he needs to be babysat?
I'm in this guy's noggin. Most of the text that he sends to this radio station is about me, now that I'm looking at it. Like December 20th, hey, look on the bright side. At least Matt Murphy's not here, he wrote. On December 22nd, Merry Christmas to you and your family. Thank you for what you do. Chris, your kiddy is awesome. I think Matt Murphy should be worried.
Yeah, he really is just obsessed with you.
It's all about me. It's all about me. Well, I can get in your noggin. So, Phil, thank you for listening. Thank you for being so loyal to us. We appreciate that. We appreciate each of you. We'll get into a new poll that indicates that Donald Trump is beating Nikki Haley in New Hampshire. Nikki Haley's not getting the bounce that she wanted out of New Hampshire, and it's far time. It's past time. Look, it is beyond time that we call this. Now, we can do that. I don't expect that the candidates themselves will do that until after a couple of these primaries happen. I predicted that you will not see another dropout until after South Carolina. After South Carolina, I would expect that Ron DeSantis has to reassess where he is in the contest. I think Nikki Haley, because of the money that she gets from the Koch brothers, I believe Nikki Haley is all in on Super Tuesday. But after Super Tuesday, obviously the writing will be on the wall, and there's nothing to do about that. I'll give you some of the poll numbers in a moment. Plus, as we discussed yesterday on the Brian Wilson Drive program, there is a meeting happening in Davos where the World Economic Forum is gathered together. We played you audio yesterday from this intrepid reporter. He sounded like he was from Australia or New Zealand. I don't know the guy, but he is willing to ask the questions. And he was walking along with John Kerry, and he called him mate. Hey, a woman kind of pushed him away from John. Don't push me, mate. Don't push me, mate. Anyway, they're meeting at the World Economic Forum to try to decide how you should live your life. We'll give you an update on that as well. It's 12:32. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Last thing we want is that deadly wintry mix, but apparently it's coming over the next 24 or 48 hours. Here's what I want you to do over the next couple of days as well. If you've been thinking about your health and you're concerned that maybe something's going on, or even if you feel okay, but you want to make sure that you are okay, there comes a time in our lives where we need to kind of do preventative maintenance on our bodies. And that's what Kraft Body Scan is all about. Before you feel symptoms, something could be going on inside of your body that you don't know about, that you need to know about, because catching things inside of your body early is key to a successful outcome. It's where Kraft Body Scan comes in. And as a way to introduce themselves to the community, they're offering scans for $149. That's heart and lung. Now, they do more than just heart and lung. They have virtual colonoscopies. You can ask them about that. It's absolutely fabulous technology that is non-invasive. They also do full body scans. It's what I did when I went to Kraft Body Scan. And in some cases, these values are well in excess of $2,000. But right now, the heart and lung scan for you and a significant other, you and your spouse, you and your brother or your sister, anybody that means something to you, bring them along. And for $149, this couple's scan can be yours at Kraft Body Scan. Find out before your body tells you if anything's going on, and that you will be met by a certified radiologist. The scan only takes 5 to 8 minutes. I'm telling you, I recommend this heartily. craftbodyscan.com. That's craftbodyscan.com, or 615-436-1000 to schedule today. 615-436-1000 for Kraft Body Scan. Hello, Matt Murphy, and I'm being abused. My name is Matt Murphy, and I'm being abused.
I'll get it for you.
It's 1237 Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Just before we came back on air and came back on Super Talk TV as well, perhaps you saw me sit back down. I was getting up during the commercial advertisement break to get my beverage. I need some fluids, and Bell yelled at me and told me that I had to sit back down. And I feel I'm being abused now. He says he's going to get it. Yes, thank you. Very good. Thank you very much.
Stop leaving those out there before the show starts.
Yeah. I hear you. Where's your dad? Is he going to the bathroom too? All right, 1237 Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So, by the way, you can communicate with the show either via super text or at any time you want. I'm kind of an open book. I'm unstructured in this way, so you can call in at any point. I always love turning a monologue into a dialogue. Disagreement goes to the front of the line. Disagreement goes to the front of the line. I love people that disagree with me, and there are a lot of them. You should not agree with me 100%. And Phil, I hope you're out there. You should not agree with me 100% of the time, Phil. I have mental issues,
yes,
and I hope
should.
you do not. You know, you shouldn't.
You really should.
There's some things that I'm a little off.
That's wrong. You're just wrong.
You're very kind to say so, Bell, but you know that's not true. New Hampshire GOP primary. So we came up with a new nickname yesterday for Nikki Haley. From now on, Nikki Haley is Nikki Bobby. If you ain't first, you're last. Because Nikki Haley explained to us yesterday, or day before, whenever it was, I guess it was day before, that it's now a two-man race. And that's what she said. I can play you the clip again. I don't know that you need to hear. It's now a two-man race.
Well, since she's not a man, she must have been talking about Trump and DeSantis.
I mean, I guess. I mean, look, I understand that Nikki Haley's camp thought, or Nikki Bobby, I understand that her camp thought that she would finish second in Iowa, and that did not materialize. Ron DeSantis held on after spending $36 million. Collectively, Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis spent $69 million against Donald Trump's $18 million, or thereabouts, 17, 18 million. And Donald Trump doubled them up. Donald Trump's total exceeded their total. So if you combine their totals and combine their money, they spent $69 million to his $18 million, and he still won the state. It is a clear indication where the American people are, at least the conservative/libertarian voter is, on this horse race early on. Everything that's been thrown at Donald Trump has only emboldened him. Everything that has happened to Donald Trump has only galvanized our support of him. Everything that the deep state does to try to destroy this man only confirms that everything that he says about the deep state is true. And I had a super texter accuse me of supporting DeSantis in 2023, and I'm going to push back on that because I know some Trump people suggested that I was being squishy in my support of Trump. Here's what I said. Your vote is the greatest currency that you have in politics. Now, some might say that there are deep pockets who actually use currency with more effectiveness than votes. But for the average citizen, your vote is your currency. It is the way that you can express yourself within politics, and it's the most important thing that you have in this presidential contest. And so I, recognizing that, told you, let everything shake out until 2024. You don't have to pick a candidate in 2023. Why would you pick Tim Scott before you know if Tim Scott's going to be in the race long term? Why in the world would you pick Chris Christie ever for anything other than an eating contest? Why would you pick any one of these candidates early on? And that includes Trump. And I understand a lot of people were dug in on Trump, and they looked at this as almost an incumbent election. I get all of that. My point was, wait until 2024, evaluate where we are as a scene, and then go from there. Well, the first thing out of the gate that happened in 2024, Donald Trump comes on a stage and does a town hall with Fox News and absolutely knocks it out of the park. A focused Donald Trump is untouchable because he has the issues on his side. And all Joe Biden has is democracy's on the ballot and Trump is Hitler. Well, and Joe, you and I both know that's not true. Joe Biden called a lid on his day yesterday at 9 a.m. For those not listening yesterday afternoon during the drive, I was filling in for Brian Wilson. We went over this. The United States of America was attacked Monday by Iran. If I didn't know any better, it would have been an act of war. However, if it were an act of war, the mainstream media, ABC, CBS, NBC, #NeverCNN, they would have covered it, right? They didn't cover it, and Joe Biden didn't seem bothered by it. Joe Biden's MIA calling a lid on his day at 9 a.m. in the morning And you, sir, don't have any idea where your Secretary of Defense is. I mean, Lloyd Austin's, where's this guy? Oh, well, he had prostate cancer. We're not supposed to talk about it. We damn sure better talk about it because we're about to be drug into a war in the Middle East. And the president doesn't even know where his Secretary of Defense is. In any sane media cycle, when you don't have a mainstream media dead set against a particular guy, and they're about to turn their anger toward you, and I'll get into that in a moment. They're already doing it, by the way. You know what Donald Trump's always said, and what the memes always say, is, look, you think they're coming after me. They're not really coming after me. They're coming after you. I'm just in the way. Well, now they're saying the quiet part out loud. I mean, Joy Reid, her reaction to Iowa is, these are a bunch of white people. What do we care? She said that. She said that on national television, and no one blinked an eye. Because being racist against white people is perfectly acceptable in 2024 media. You can be as racist as you choose to be in 2024 against white people. Now, you know, it gets a little tricky when those white people decide that they're transgender. It gets a little tricky when they explain to you their pronouns. It gets a little tricky if they decide that they're, you know, Palestinians on some level. But for the most part, you're white. We can be as racist as we want to. DEI tells us that. So they're coming after you on mainstream media. More on that as an aside in a moment. But as 2023 rolled into 2024, I said, now is a time for choosing. I went and listened to, and I'm thinking about playing this in its entirety. It's long. It's a lengthy speech. I went back and listened to Ronald Reagan's 1964 address to the nation called A Time for Choosing. It really was what put Ronald Reagan solidly on the map as a national political figure and as a senior statesman within the conservative movement that was going on at that time with William F. Buckley, Barry Goldwater, and others. Ronald Reagan galvanized the sense and the sentiment of the American people so well in about a 30-minute span of time. And I'm listening to A Time for Choosing with Reagan, and it occurs to me how much of what he is talking about still holds true today. We have lost the concept of individual responsibility as coupled with individual liberty. We've lost the idea that it is the government's job not to ensure that you have success in this country, but to make sure that no one is denied success based on a pre-existing condition that they have nothing to do with. But the DEI thought process of the world goes very much against that idea. And they decide that they're going to pick winners and losers. So at the beginning of 2024, I watched this, and then I watched Donald Trump on Fox News, and he's so focused on the issues. And the issues are right in front of us, and on every single one of them, he's right and Joe Biden and the Biden administration are wrong. On border security, the American people are behind Donald Trump. On energy policy, the American people are behind Donald Trump. On economic policy, which is very much coupled with energy policy, the American people believe in Donald Trump. And on our ability to lead through strength and achieve peace through strength is more important in 2024 than it's ever been. And Reagan was a master of that. He understood that you can achieve peace through strength and through demonstrating that you're not going to put up with the garbage that some of the rest of the world want to spew out on a regular. Trump knows that too. Now, Trump will tell you that without Joe Biden in office, were there a second Trump term over the last several years, that the Ukrainian conflict would not happen. Well, all I can look at is the empirical data, and it suggests that Vladimir Putin was rather quiet while Trump was president of the United States. Results matter. He invaded Crimea during Obama. He invades Ukraine during Biden. He didn't invade anybody during Trump. There's a reason for that. Secondarily, Donald Trump is now forcefully saying, and there's evidence behind him to suggest that he's right, and I can go through it, went through it yesterday, that Trump's in office, none of this happens in Israel. Trump's in office, Hamas does not have the political or economic wherewithal to accomplish that task. Joe Biden's administration decided that the Houthis weren't terrorists. They've recently come back off that designation, and now they are terrorists again. Joe Biden comes into office, hey, these Houthis aren't terrorists. Now, hey, these Houthis are terrorists. What changed? Nothing, except that they now have more money because the Biden administration released billions of dollars to the Iranian government and wagged their finger when they did it and said, hey, you Iranians, y'all don't spend this money on terrorism, okay? And the Iranians said, okay, a winky wink. Are you kidding me? Of course they did just that. Of course they're funding Hezbollah. Of course they're funding Hamas. And of course they're funding the Houthis. And of course, Joe Biden is absent as America slowly but surely slips into a war that we have no business being in. So, you're right. Super texter, whose name or number I've forgotten because you're way down on the list now. You're right that I told you not to choose in 2023. Watch all of this play out. Observe it. Have opinions on the matters that are in front of you. But wait, hold off. Well, now, as Reagan famously said, it is a time for choosing. And the American people spoke loudly through the people of Iowa. We've spoken repeatedly. That does not make Ron DeSantis a bad person. It doesn't even necessarily make Nikki Bobby a bad person. I mean, I think Chris Christie's a bad person. Chris Christie might have eaten a good person, but he's not a good person. He's a bad person. Look, I'm a fat boy, so I can, whatever. I mean, I'm not that fat, but I'm fat. So I'm allowed to talk along these lines. Donald Trump is the clear choice for the American people if the American people are to vote today. They don't care about the lawsuits. The lawsuits don't matter. It is, and y'all tell me if I'm missing the mark here or not. I'd love to hear your opinion on it. 615-737-9986. It reminds me of 2015, 2016 again. Donald Trump consistently and on the regular proved individuals wrong, although the mainstream media looked at Trump in 2015 as more of a comedy show or a circus. And now they're treating him like Adolf Hitler because they know that he means it when he says that border security matters. He means it when he says he's going to drain the swamp. He means it when he's going to call out the news organizations that he calls out. Donald Trump was Javier Milei before Javier Milei was Javier Milei, and we need more of that in our lives. So, with that in mind, I don't endorse people. I just observe the news, and I tell you where I'm at when asked. And I've been asked. And so I'll tell you, it's Donald Trump. Does that mean that DeSantis is a bad human being or we cannot benefit from Ron DeSantis down the road? We need Ron DeSantis down the road. Do not dismiss this guy and don't turn him into some evil guy because he's a bad campaigner. He ran a horrible campaign. He did everything wrong with regard to how he treated Trump. He got bad advice from bad consultants, D.C.-style consultants. That does not mean that I don't believe that Ron DeSantis has been a good governor. And that doesn't mean that I don't believe that he could be a good and formidable opponent down the road. Nikki Haley is what Nikki Haley is. I have some ideological disagreements with her position on certain issues, but that is what it is. I mean, but she's a voice in the process. I'll leave it at that. But there is no stronger defender of freedom and liberty right now than Donald Trump. And if you don't believe me, look at how the media is reacting to him. They've shed all pretense of objectivity, and they're now coming after him hammer and tongs, and it will continue. And, oh, by the way, they're now sidestepping Donald Trump, and they're coming after you. just like the meme always foretold us. I'll explain what I mean in that in just a moment. It's 12:53 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's 1 o'clock. I'm John Michael with your top stories. Sunny but cold, 20 degrees. Full forecast in 5 minutes. Right now in Tennessee, the maker of electricity for Tennessee and 7 other states says despite bitter cold, the system is stable and generating facilities are doing well.
We've made it through what looks like is going to be a new all-time peak demand, which was set at 8 a.m. Central Time this morning.
TVA's Scott Brooks tells WTN's Chris Hand show that this morning's preliminary peak power demand was 34,526 megawatts. The previous record was 33,482 in August of 2007. Everyone is still asked to conserve energy for the freezing weather this weekend. All Boeing 737 MAX 9 planes remain grounded in the U.S. after that door plug flew off on Alaska Airlines flight plane. Today, a step has been made towards clearing them to fly again. Here's Alex Stone.
The FAA says 40 Boeing 737 MAX 9 planes have been inspected, and that data will be reviewed as part of the process of understanding what airlines will need to inspect to get the planes flying again. It comes as Alaska Airlines CEO Ben Minicucci says this.
We will return these aircraft to service only when all findings have been fully resolved and meet the stringent standards of Boeing, the FAA, and Alaska Airlines.
Alaska Airlines is canceling up to 150 flights a day because of the grounding.
With over 10,000 flights canceled or delayed in the U.S. on Tuesday, the misery will not be over on Wednesday. Already around 600 flights have been canceled for Wednesday as airlines deal with extreme cold and snow and trying to get back on track. Southwest and United Airlines have been the hardest hit, and LaGuardia, Reagan National, and Chicago O'Hare are the airports with the most canceled flights. Consumer news you need to know. Costco is testing out a system that requires members to scan their membership cards at the store entrance instead of just flashing the card to employees. This comes as the retail giant aims to decrease the number of non-members who are sneaking in with membership cards that don't belong to them, particularly since the company has expanded self-checkout. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm John Michael, WTN News.
The Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief is located in Franklin, Tennessee, but anywhere within the sound of my voice, it is well worth your time to schedule an appointment and make the drive to see the Dr. Gill Center and the different way that they do their business. They take a team approach at the Dr. Gill Center. That means that Dr. Gill has hand-selected individuals like Dr. Wendy, Dr. Dominic, Dr. V, and so many others that can assist you in alleviating pain through a variety of techniques, all modern in their advance. They're not just a chiropractic center anymore. While they have practiced incredible chiropractic care for well over 3 decades now, they also have a state-of-the-art industry equipment array like their Class 5 laser system, red light therapy, spinal decompression, and so much more. I've experienced this. I'm a patient with the Dr. Gill Center, and I don't know what I would be doing with my lower back pain right now if it were not for Dr. Gill and his team. They have alleviated the pain. I don't have to take pain medication on a daily basis, and I feel better than I have in years. Thank you to the Dr. Gill Center. You could be next. Make 2024 the year that you don't have to pop pills, that you are pain-free. Do this with the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief. 615-882-4838. 615-882-4838. The Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief in Franklin. Here we go. Matt Murphy Radio Show, hour number 2, 105 to be precise. No Cameron Smith in studio today. I'm shaming him to call in at 2 o'clock so I can further shame him for telling me that he does not have an ability to drive from Nolensville to our studios here on Music Row. I mean, Bel K's shaking his head, his headless head. You won't see that on the Super Talk television side of things, but he's shaking it. Trust me on that.
That was really his weak sauce excuse.
That's what he said. I'll just
how does somebody have that many sons when he can't even be a man?
Well, he's now adjusted his excuse making. I just saw this latest. Okay. So Cameron says, "Bump me to Friday. I'm not sure I can get in from down here. It's freaking freezing. Just let me know." I wrote back 10-4. You should call in at 2 and I can berate you.
And he agreed to that?
He said, "Seems reasonable. What's the line number?" And then went on to say, "The beasts are overwhelming at this stage. I'm going to leave the house and face the cold." Oh, so he's coming in.
Oh, okay. There we go. All it took was his sons driving him crazy in the house.
Amen and amen. No legislative session this week. The General Assembly called it pretty early on. Everyone dealing with the cold, the freezing conditions, and, of course, the snow on the ground. And it's sad to say, but a lot of the roadways look fine. I came in from Mount Juliet. The road, I-40, looked okay until it wasn't okay. There was an accident. I think an 18-wheeler slid and got sideways or whatnot. It was blocking 2 lanes of traffic. So I chose an alternate route. I went 440 and got on 65 and got into town that way. One way or the other, the roads are pretty good. The drivers are insane. And sadly, we're at this stage of the proceedings where there are still icy patches on the road. And look, I don't pretend that I am Mr. Expert. I've got a big 4-wheel drive, which is nice. It's got a little weight to it. It's got a little heft to it. That's nice. And anyone with that equipment can drive better than you can in a 2-wheel drive vehicle in these conditions. It is possible to learn how to best drive on snow. It is possible to understand what to do to drive in icy conditions, but nobody can drive, quote unquote, on ice unless you have the proper equipment, chains and whatnot. That said, we're at the point in the proceedings where the roads are clear enough that everyone thinks it's okay to go 85 miles an hour. It's not okay to go 85 miles an hour because there are icy patches on the roads. And if you hit one of those icy patches, especially if you have your wheels turned this way or that, it will dramatically impact your life. So be careful out there, folks. Be careful. And if you see something, say something to us on the super text line or via the phone lines, 615-737-9986. 615-737-WWTN. We would love to hear from you if you have any report on the roads. Most of the roadways, the major thoroughfares are doing just fine. The back streets and all of that, they're still covered in snow and in some cases ice. We'll get to a point in the conditions where there will be some sublimation or there will be some melting, and then that's going to refreeze tonight, and then there's more coming over the next 24 to 48 hours. So there you go.
You probably need to re-explain what sublimation is.
I love saying it.
I know.
You know I do, don't
Yes,
you?
I do.
I love saying it because it feels so fancy. Well, there's a bit of sublimation. I feel like a meteorologist. I feel like a weather guy. I understand when they talk about their polar vortex or whatever. What? Your polar vortex? Like, that's personal. I don't know that you should be sharing that on the TV. Sublimation is, you've got 3 phases of matter. You have solid liquid gas. And sublimation is when something goes from a solid to a gas directly. So the sun promotes sublimation of ice on our roads and on the ground as it transfers, even in freezing conditions. The sun can transfer ice from a solid to a gas directly. And that's why even in freezing conditions, I'm not talking about the roads where there's a lot of heat, there's a lot of, tires, there's a lot of exhaust and whatnot, and that adds to, and just basic friction will add to the melting process there. But just in general, even if we stayed beneath freezing, if you've got an area that gets a lot of sun, you'll see some of the snow diminish over time, and that's because of sublimation. And we learned something together today. All right, back to Campaign 2024. And I want to address something that a super texter shared. Because I might be guilty of oversimplifying what I see as the clear path forward in 2024. I believe Trump's the man. There are other candidates on the ballot, sure. If you've decided you're a DeSantis person or a Nikki Haley person, I don't hate you for it. I do believe that eventually you're going to have to shift back to Trump because Trump's going to win the nomination, and he will go against Joe Biden or whomever the Democrats decide to replace Joe Biden with when the time comes, and I still think that's going to happen. But 8186 writes in and says, I appreciate your work, but it's not 2016. Don't diminish the huge element of surprise held by Trump as opposed to 2020. The ground game, ballot cheating, harvesting were evident with the Biden win. Instead of reminding us of our right to vote, could we focus on harvesting, pressure on elected officials, ground game for whatever is left of the spineless GOP? And I wrote back and said, I agree. I'm not trying to oversimplify this. I'm mostly referring to the never Trumper reaction in my 2016 comparison. And I am. A lot of conservatives have their lips pooched out at the idea of having to go and vote for Trump. And many are saying that they will not. I won't do it. I won't do it. I won't do it. Were the Trump years not good enough for you? Did Donald Trump not govern in a manner more consistent with your values? Am I missing something, Never Trumpers? A lot of these Never Trumpers sound like Democrats today. Lincoln Project, Bill Kristol, all of them. And I had my doubts about them before Trump. Trump exposed them for what they are. Establishment, deep state, bureaucrat Republicans. Not conservatives, Republicans. And it's high time we called them out for it. Now, more to the point for 8186. You're right. We must collectively demand a better system of presidential elections than we currently have. It is one thing for the state of California to vote itself into oblivion. It's another thing for the state of Washington to vote themselves into oblivion. But it's a different matter altogether when they have influence over our beliefs and our value systems and our ability to elect a president of our choosing through cheating and doing so in violation of their own rules. So I do believe that we need a basic set of parameters around presidential elections. I am loath to call for it because I understand that we are 50 separate experiments in these United States of America. United States of America. And the states themselves have the ability to hold elections in a manner of their choosing. And that is an important concept in American history. But because the Democrats have demonstrated that they will lie, cheat, or steal in any way possible to secure elections, fraudulently or otherwise, it's time that we have some basic standards. I'll tell you, I've thought about this, and I've not fully fleshed out the premise. But I was thinking about this the other night on the subject of national standards for voting in a presidential election. I think Republicans might have missed the boat when we were debating 15 or 20 years ago national ID cards. Because would that not be a simple way to standardize presidential elections now? Now, many people, and I understand why. I understand a lot of you are freaking out even at the mention of it. You freak out when you say something like national ID card because it is reminiscent of, we must see your papers, please. I get it. I understand it. But in terms of voting, should there not be, you don't have to call it a national ID card. Should there not be standards by which individuals can vote in a presidential election? If I were king for the day, here's what I would do. Sunday, Monday, you could do Saturday, Sunday, Monday, or you could do Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I don't care which way you do it. I'm not beholden to the Tuesday vote, but do Friday, Saturday, Sunday voting. 72-hour voting period, no early voting, no mail-in balloting. You must vote in person unless you have a valid and we can describe and list of those reasons why you cannot be there in person. Obviously, military service is one of them. Infirmity is another reason. Being out of town, a legitimate out-of-town excuse, is another reason. I believe that absentee balloting and absentee voting has gone fairly well in the communities and the states that do it effectively. But we must stop. We must stop. We must stop this extended early voting time that gives the political left, who have no morals about them, the ability to lie, cheat, and steal their way into winning elections, quote-unquote winning elections. I do believe that we need to standardize the process of voting for president of the United States because blue states are taking away our ability to make a choice that determines our future, and they're doing so in violation of their own laws. And even some purple states like Pennsylvania. 615-737-9986. Brian says they had standards for the COVID vaccine to prove you had it. I don't understand what that has to do with what we're talking about, Brian, but I appreciate the comment. If there were federal election laws concerning who can vote right now, wouldn't Joe Biden be in charge of enforcing those laws? Something to think about. Well, the states would still enforce the laws in place. You would just standardize the process by which you vote in a presidential election. And then the states themselves have to live up to those standards, but it gives individuals an ability to challenge some of the determinations in the individual states where we have seen more of a propensity to cheat. Let me give you an example. Like, if you had certain federal standards, that would give more standing in a court of law for me to challenge Pennsylvania. The Pennsylvania Secretary of State went against Pennsylvania law as written and passed by the Pennsylvania legislature with regard to mail-in balloting. And a judge said, well, no, COVID's going on, so we're going to suspend those rules. And the Pennsylvania legislature said, whoa, wait. And now the Secretary of State's a Democrat. The legislature is majority Republican, and the legislature said, whoa, wait a minute, what are you doing? We specifically said these are the rules for voting. These are the rules for mail-in ballots. You cannot violate these rules. And the Pennsylvania Supreme Court said, no, the Secretary of State, they're extenuating circumstances, and it's an emergency situation. They're all good. And you push that up to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court says, wait a minute, no other state has standing as to tell Pennsylvania what to do or how to do their business when it comes to elections. If you have certain protocols and standards set in stone on the federal level, I'm not promoting growth in the federal government for no reason. I'm promoting growth in the federal government to try to avoid some of the pitfalls that we saw in 2020 and the willingness that the political left has to, by any means necessary, destroy this country as we know it. That's my goal. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm willing to listen to your suggestions as well. 615-737-9986, 615-737-9986, either via phone or super text. I'm playing this by popular request.
I can safely say tonight, Iowa made this Republican primary a two-person race.
Okay, she did say, Yes, Ricky Bobby and Nikki Bobby there, hand in hand, explaining that if you're not first, you're last. I misreported something, and someone on the super text line said, I think you're misreporting it. I thought she said two-man race. She did not.
I can safely say tonight, Iowa made this Republican primary a two-person race.
It is an odd flex. Thank you, Nikki Bobby. It is an odd flex when you just finished third that you would do that. So I have that by popular demand. I also have Rachel Maddow explaining why they can't cover Donald Trump anymore. That's by popular demand. Plus your calls on election security, how important it is moving forward in 2024, especially considering that it looks like Donald Trump's race to lose on the Republican side of things. 120 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, folks, Matt Murphy here for the one and only Savory Spice. So as you grow, as you get older, you grow out of the cheapest being the thing that you buy at the grocery store, the thing that you buy at the home fix-it store, and you move on to better quality. We do this in our lives as we become parents, as we become homeowners, as we become grown-ups. Well, I encourage you to do this with your spices. If you're buying spices at the same old, if you're buying them at the grocery store, I don't believe you're doing it right. When we get a little bit older, we start thinking about our bodies and what we intake. And so you up your food game. How do you do that? Well, you go to the farmer's market to buy veggies, or you go to a local butcher as opposed to the grocery store to buy meats. Well, what if I told you you need to up that spice game when you up that food game, and then you really get it to the next level? Upping that spice game includes Savory Spice. 2 locations to serve you. I've done it, and I would hardly recommend you do it. They have so many different spice blends. I can't tell you all of the spice blends. There are so many of them. But there is a blend for every taste at Savory Spice. Plus, they, of course, have the basics. If you need to restock after the holidays, they've got it for you at Savory Spice. They have a salt selection. They have a pepper selection. They have different spices from around the globe. They have things to sprinkle on popcorn and to put into soup and just anything imaginable. They've got it at Savory Spice. Go by and see the gang at Savory Spice, locally owned and operated. I love that too. Call David. Give Holly a hello when you walk in the door. In Franklin, they're off the square next to Gray's Pharmacy, and L&L Market right there on Charlotte Pike in Nashville. It's Savory Spice, the one and only. You up the food game by upping the spice game. You up the spice game at Savory Spice.
The TVA is keeping up with energy demands, but will the federal government keep going? I'll have those stories at the bottom of the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
And you hear that? That's John Michael. There's a pro in there. There's a pro in that room. There's a pro in the news closet, Bell. I love hearing John Michael in the news closet, and I love...
You don't have to rub salt in the wound.
I love smacking on Mac Morey as well. I love smacking him around while he's
Mac,
not here.
just remember who's saying this stuff, and it ain't me.
615-737-9986. We look forward to news coming up at 1:30. Well, we don't normally have news in the 1 o'clock hour, so that's also nice. We look forward to that coming up in just a couple of minutes with John Michael on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So I want to get back to your phone calls. I promise. Brian, you'll be first. But by also popular request. So here's the media. Here's what I mean when I say the media is about to turn their anger toward you. They thought that they had done the job of destroying Trump in 2020. He has come back bigger and stronger than ever. And so they've been going about the business of trying to destroy him now in 2023 with all of the lawsuits and their hyper focus on these ridiculous lawsuits that are in front of him in Georgia, in New York, etc., Washington, D.C., and Florida. So because that's not worked, and because it's obvious that Donald Trump is stronger than ever, we're going to watch a transition. And their anger is going to go from Trump to you, which is where it's been all along. Let me assure you of something. This frustration that you're about to hear from leftist media, this does not denote any sort of support for Nikki Haley, any sort of support for Ron DeSantis. They do this all the time. They explain to you, conservatives or libertarians, who the best choice for you is, but it's always the worst choice because they're going to destroy that person too. You want examples? I've got examples. John McCain in 2008 is an example. John McCain was the darling of leftist media before he ran for president of the United States. Anybody remember this? They loved him. They called him a maverick. John McCain's his own man. John McCain is a maverick. John McCain believes what he believes. John McCain's willing to reach across the aisle and do the right thing. Then he ran for president against the anointed one, and they destroyed him. He's too old. He's mentally infirm. They suggested that he had been brainwashed by the Vietnamese. To a lesser degree, Mitt Romney, a squish, an absolute squish. We were told that Mitt Romney was the reasonable choice. Mitt Romney could win elections. Mitt Romney can bring the middle together, and he can galvanize a coalition, and he can get it done. Mitt Romney runs against the anointed one in 2012, and what do? They scream and yell about his dog running on top of his car and pooping on the car or whatever. I mean, anything and everything. They go back to his childhood, and they insist that he caused someone to kill themselves because he cut off a lock of that person's hair when they were in grade school or middle school or whatever, and that person eventually turned out to be gay. Now, that person's dead, so they're not here to say whether that's true or not, but they suggested it in 2012, and I'm elephantine. I remember these things. They pick the lesser candidate. They explain to us that, the lesser candidate's the only one that can win. And then when the lesser candidate is selected by squishy Republicans, they go about the business of destroying that person too. If you think it stops with Trump, you're wrong. If you think it stops with DeSantis, you're wrong. If you think it stops with Nikki Haley or any other person identifying as a conservative Republican, you are wrong. These people on the political left want socialism. They want to transform this country. And the only way to accomplish that is to own you. And they'll do everything in their power. Now, I've ranted long enough that I can't play the clip. But I can get to Brian before we get to the news. Hey, Brian, I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you called. How are you?
I'm doing good, Matt. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you.
So I've got this idea. I've been thinking about this over the last couple of years because voter election is paramount. It's extremely important. Everybody needs to feel that their vote actually did something. So the government already has all our information. If you want to verify who you are with the government, they'll ask you questions like, which one of these vehicles have you previously owned? Which one of these addresses did you live in the last 10 years? You know, these security questions that prove you are as a person. So they need to implement either an app or a website where you go on and you register yourself as a voter, verify who you are with your identity, and you put that in. You put in whether you're Republican, Democrat, liberal, whatever. And then all in one day, everybody's got 5 minutes every day that they could easily go to this website or this app and put in who who they're going to vote for. Now, the next day, there's going to be people that are going to be looking for red flags. Like in the last 24 hours or so, did a Republican vote Democrat or vice versa, and then they'll directly contact that person to verify that there wasn't some hacking happening, right, that it was an actual vote. And I don't know, poke some bullet holes through it. What do you think?
All right, so you're suggesting, if I'm hearing you correctly, Brian, that we vote online.
Correct,
Completely.
because everybody can do that. Even illegal immigrants have cell phones.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you're suggesting this as a positive solution to our modern issues with voting?
Absolutely, because a lot of it's slipping through where all these paper ballots are forged and fake. I mean, there was many ballots that were documented showing that it didn't even have all the information filled out, which means that voter.
Yeah, the mail-in ballots. All right, hold on for a second, Brian, because your call merits further consideration. Right now, we go to news with John Michael in the newsroom, and then we'll come back and we will discuss this. I completely disagree with Brian's premise, but I'm willing to listen to learn. And I think it's a good educational exercise that we do that because I think we need to get back to more paper ballots and in-person voting. More on that in a moment. Right now, from the newsroom, let's get the headlines with John Michael on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's 1:30. I'm John Michael with your top stories. Tennessee is still dealing with record cold temperatures. In fact, this morning's preliminary peak power demand was 34,526 megawatts at a system average temperature of 4 degrees. And that set an all-time TVA record. The previous record was 33,482 megawatts back in August of 2007. Extremely cold temperatures across the region continue to drive up the demand for electricity. Officials say the TVA is doing well. It is stable, and the generating facilities are performing as they are supposed to. President Biden has summoned the 4 top leaders of Congress to the White House Wednesday, including Speaker Mike Johnson, as a funding deadline looms. If Congress doesn't act by midnight Friday, funding will run out for programs under 4 of the 12 bills. Programs under the other 8 bills continue for defense spending are to run out of funds 2 weeks later on February 2nd. Ali Pecorin has more.
The good news is the ball has already started rolling to try to kick the can down the road and buy Congress a little bit more time to work out longer-term funding solutions. The Senate voted last night, the first in a series of procedural steps, to extend the government funding deadline through March. But that actually still doesn't address the longer-term issues with government funding that have plagued this Congress for several months now.
Conservatives are looking for more border control components to be included in any short-term deal. I'm John Michael, WTN News.
Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy. When I first came to Nashville, I asked about the radio station and other folks about financial planners, and Paul Winkler's name came up time and time and time again. Now, I've gotten to know him. You already knew him. He's done a radio show on this radio station for over 20 years. Paul and his team voluntarily hold themselves up to the highest level of fiduciary status and standards that there is, and because of that, the government regulators require that I tell you that I get paid when I talk about Paul Winkler and his team. Well, that's all well and good. I'm incentivized incentivized to say nice things, that's all well and good too. But let me tell you something. I'm not incentivized to become a client of Paul Winkler's, and I encourage you to do the same thing. I've decided that is the best scenario possible. That's the best path forward for you and your family. In the financial world, you need to know what's going on, and Paul is big on education. The investment education is evidence-based. It's backed by Nobel Prize-winning research. So here's the deal. Every office is run by a degreed planner with over 20 years' experience, and they have 10 separate offices to serve you. No kids fresh out of school. You'll see the difference with Paul Winkler. Call one of his team members and have a 15-minute free consultation today at 615-851-1950. 615-851-1950 or go to paulwinkler.com. Tell them I sent you, paulwinkler.com. All right, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's like we're battling two different entities. We're battling the political left, and we're battling the mainstream media, which walks hand in hand with the political left, and it's getting more and more difficult to understand or really be able to see the difference. I'm going to give you a couple of examples of this. There was one the other night in the aftermath of Iowa. MSNBC was reporting. Normally I turn over there. I did not. On election night, I watched Fox News. I got over to #NeverCNN. It's an obligation for me to watch a little CNN because I tell you that I watch so you don't have to. And I did not catch this live, but I did see it on Memorex, where MSNBC lost their ever-loving mind that Donald Trump had actually secured 50+% of the vote in Iowa. And in the midst of Joy Reid saying, well, these are white people, they don't matter, you had this exchange where Rachel Maddow lost her mind.
The big picture takeaway from that, and I don't mean to be, again, too dark, as you said, on this, but it is not, if we are worried about the rise of authoritarianism in this country, we are worried about potential rise of fascism in this country. We're worried about...
Wait, who's worried about the potential rise of fascism in the United States of America? I just want to break this down as it happens. Who's worried about authoritarianism? I'm not. The only thing that I'm worried is that if we have our election systems compromised in a way that the Democrats did in 2020, that would compromise the integrity of our nation's government. I'm worried about the deep state. There's only one political party that seems to be worried at all about the deep state, that seems to be worried at all that organizations within our government are working extracurricular to the Constitution of the United States of America, like the FBI, like the CIA. When the CIA violates basic constitutional rights and justifies it by either saying, well, we can't tell you what we did because that's secret classified, or, well, it was the point we were trying to get to was the most important thing. That could lead us to authoritarianism. So there's only one political party that is leading us down that road, and it's the Democrats.
Our democracy falling to an authoritarian and potentially fascist form of government.
How do they think this is happening? Like, the political left, you watch these folks, they go, oh, well, democracy's on the ballot. No, democracy is the ballot. And we could fall to authoritarianism or fascism. How does that happen? Have you ever wondered that? How does it happen? It happens when one political party makes it impossible for another political party to secure victory. It happens by using the authority of our executive branch of government and, by extension, the United States military even, to circumvent the ability of one political candidate to run or to win in a fairly contested election. It happens using the judicial system to boot a legitimate candidate off the ballot. This beginning to sound familiar? These are not Republicans doing this. This is not Donald Trump suggesting this. These are the Democrats that are suggesting this. There's only one political party that wants to prevent a candidate from running.
The leader who is trying to do that is part of that equation. But people wanting that is a much bigger part of that equation. Right. And the American electorate is made up of two major parties. One of those parties has been flirting with extremism on the ultra-right for a very long time. They've brought them in a way that they haven't been central to Republican electoral politics ever before, and I know because I've been studying this. But once you have radicalized one major party so that those are the preferences of the people who adhere to your party, the leader's interchangeable. And yes, Trumpism is sometimes what we call it. MAGA movement is probably a better way to do it. But there is an authoritarian movement inside Republican politics that isn't being bamboozled by Trump. They are pushing Trump to get more and more extreme, because the more extreme things he says, the more they adhere to him. And that is coming from a very large proportion of the American right that adheres to the Republican Party. And that's
you understand what she's saying there? That's Rachel Maddow from MSNBC. And a lot of these people on the set there, like Jen Psaki and Joy Reid, and I mean, they're dunderheads. Maddow is politically all for nut, but she's not stupid. And she bends over backwards to suggest to you that there's a group of people. So she's not going after Trump anymore. She's going after you. She's saying that your belief system, that you are either so dumb. This is an old trope on the part of the political left. When you sit down and you talk to a leftist, it always goes to the same place, no matter the subject. If you're talking politics to a dyed-in-the-wool leftist, they either conclude that you're either too racist or too dumb to understand their point. And if you were just a little less racist or a little more intelligent, you would agree with them. They cannot conceive of the idea that you have a difference of opinion about what makes America a better place. And this is what we're dealing with on the main stage there at MSNBC. And they're going to use this to try to further the idea of preventing where this goes. They want to prevent you from voting, folks. That's what they want to do. They believe that you're too stupid to vote. Watch where this goes over the next 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, especially if Trump wins. Now, back to Brian, who, speaking of voting, wanted to talk about the possibility of electronic voting and doing so in a non-person way. So am I understanding your point correctly, Brian, that you suggest that it might be a superior way to vote to do so online?
Well, I think so. Everything we're doing nowadays is online. You file your taxes online, even if you're at H&R Block or one of those other places, they're still sending it digitally to the IRS. Nobody that I've ever heard of has had their refunds taken away from them. I mean, we just do so many things online that are already secured by the government that, yeah, I think we could do voting online, but it has to be very safely done, right? Because hacking is a thing. and we already have a problem with voter fraud, but that's where there's a group of people that their job is to look on the list to see, like, I'm a Republican. Let's say the day before voting, for some reason, it pops up in the system that I turn to a Democrat or I vote Democrat. Well, that red flags me. So someone's then going to contact me, and if I disagree that, no, that's not what I did, then I have to go in person and prove who I am so that they can manually change it to what it should have been. Right?
What is broken that we're trying to fix?
Voting in person. The voting machines, there's many stories where we bought them from Venezuela, and then they went to Canada.
Well, why wouldn't we fix that by going back the other way and using paper ballots that are collected and preserved?
Because the misfortunate ones is what we'll say. The left says voting is in person is racist because there's some people of certain ethnic backgrounds that don't have the ability to get out to the voting center.
Wouldn't they say the same thing about online voting? There are certain people with certain ethnic backgrounds that don't have the ability or access to get online to vote?
Well, everything they disagree with is racist, so yeah, they're going to say that. But
right.
I mean, we're giving illegal immigrants phones. We give poor people phones. Everybody's got a smartphone. That excuse is out the door. If you don't have a smartphone, you know somebody that does.
What sort of all right, so in this concept that you're coming up with, what sort of documentation would you need, and how would you demonstrate said documentation in order to vote online?
Well, first you got to have the registration process. You got to sign up just like regular voter registration, except for this one, since we're doing it digitally, yes, you have to prove who you are.
So we're going to do that online too, right?
You can, or you can do it in person, either way.
Okay.
Because, I mean, you can verify everything online. I've filed my taxes before in the past, and the government knows all this. I mean, they'll ask me which vehicles have I owned in the last 10 years, which counties have I lived in the last 10 years. I mean, there's a lot of information that people aren't going to get from, you know, scamming your email or hacking your computer.
The difference initially that I see with, for example, taxes, that the IRS is required to hold that document in perpetuity, right? Regardless of whether it's online or not. My wife would be a better one to ask about this because she worked in the tax system for a while, and she worked in the tax system when they transitioned from paper copies over to electronic filing, and she was intimately involved in that process. That said, in voting, the ability for you to vote secretly without regard for who you're voting for is considered sacrosanct. So I would go in and Matt Murphy would vote, but my vote, who I voted for, would that be recorded?
Well, it'd have to be. That way it can...
But it's not currently... That's not currently recorded.
Then how do they know that dead people are voting for Democrats?
You do that through voter registration.
Okay.
I mean, I mean, that's a matter of dead people registering to vote, and then dead people you sign off on. You don't know how dead people are voting necessarily, but unless they're voting in primaries. Let me. I'm not dismissing it, and I appreciate the call, and I appreciate the concept. I completely disagree with the idea of going to a fully electronic voting system because I think that is far more fraught with peril than even the current system that we have. Matter of fact, I'd like to see us go away from it and go to strictly paper ballots and in-person voting. Or if you cannot vote in person, specific reasons why you would be offered an absentee ballot, military service, infirmity, whatever. What do you say about Brian's proposal? Maybe more people are in agreement with it, Brian, than I would give it credit for. I disagree with the concept of going to fully electronic voting. I think it would be if hackers regularly and routinely bust into secure organizations and secure systems and have their will with it, and because we don't have, I mean, the only reason that you know that I voted for Donald Trump in 2020 is because I told you, and I did. The only reason you know that I voted for Donald Trump in 2016 is because I told you, and and I did. So you would have to, in order to secure the system, you would have to have some level of knowledge as to how individuals are voting. You would have to match name with candidate, and that goes against the concept of a secret ballot.
One of the things that you'd have to worry about being at risk at is one party would only need to cause such chaos in the vote that it got thrown into the House of Representatives, and then the House ends up deciding the vote because the election was so confusing. They weren't sure who won. And if you're the party that's not in control of the presidency and you want to be, and you do have the House, then you just stole the election.
Right. Right. No, I think it's going the wrong direction. That's my take on it, Brian. I'll leave it to others to determine for themselves how they feel about it. I get that it seems that if we modernize the system, but you have to depend on a system that is fair and equitable for all, that was created in a fair and equitable manner, and that is monitored in a fair and equitable manner. It is recorded how you vote, or rather, it is not recorded how you vote. It is recorded that you vote. And how you voted is determined by the counters. And those two, your name does not match up to the ballot. They mark you off in name when you go to the polls, and then they hand you the ballot, and then that at that point becomes an anonymous process. You have to necessarily, if you're doing this online, destroy the anonymity of the vote. And I don't think the American people are ready for that. 151 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. How about heading out to the world-famous clock store and seeing what they have to offer? Obviously, we've been talking quite a bit about the Sentinel training at the world-famous clock store. That event happening in the 1st of February, and so you need to get on board. I don't know if there are still seats available, but this intense training is there for 18 individuals. They have to limit the seating because of the nature of the training. You can find out more by going to shoot270.com. And generally speaking, find out more about the world-famous Glock store by going to glockstore.com. There's incredible deals happening at the Glock store every single day, not just during the holiday season, but beyond that, they've got great deals on short guns, long guns, etc., accessories out the wazoo, as they say. And then there's the Shoot 270 rooms, which are just superior to anything else in town. Lenny McGill and the world-famous clock store came to town years ago and completely changed the dynamic of what you expect out of a gun store. I've seen it with my own eyes, and you need to as well. Go to Elm Hill Pike, find Air Lane Drive, go down there and see the world-famous clock store, the beautiful showroom, the retail area. The shooting lanes there are happy to take you on a tour today at the Glock store. Go to glockstore.com for more info, or shoot270.com for more info. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you to the world-famous Glock store.
Bitter cold continues in the Music City, and round 2 is on the way. Trump goes from the campaign trail to the courtroom again, and a Costco crackdown is on the way. Those stories and more coming up.
That's a professional tease right there, baby. Costco crackdown. I like it. John Michael in the newsroom, subbing in for Mac Maury. I say professional as much as possible with regard to the newsroom, just to Mac on Maury. No pun intended. 158 Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I don't know if you follow me on social media. I hope that you do. I'm on the X machine. It's a cesspool full of horrible, troll, anonymous, random people doing their trolly random things. And I absolutely love it. I wallow in it. You're invited to be a part of that at Matt Murphy Show, at Matt Murphy Show. I think I need like 10 more people to follow me, and I have more followers than Brian Wilson, which is important to me and no one else. So do that at Matt Murphy Show.
Why does that matter to you?
Because I want to be number one.
Oh, okay.
If you're not if you're not first. Right. My favorite part of that movie. No, I must have been high. I mean, no, you can be second. You can be third. No, man. It's my mantra. It's what I've lived by. Nicky Bobby. But if you follow me on the X machine, I've posted 2 quote clips from my new favorite head football coach, Todd Bowles, of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm going to share those with you coming up in just a moment. We'll also talk with Cameron Smith either via phone or in person. I don't know which. On the way on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hang in there.
It's 2 o'clock. I'm John Michael with your top stories. 17 degrees now in the Music City. In Nashville, Metro Police are saying while conditions on interstates are improving, neighborhood and side streets remain snow-covered and slick. Your forecast is coming up right now in Tennessee. The maker of electricity for Tennessee and 7 other states say despite the bitter cold, the system is stable and generating facilities are doing well.
We've spent $123 million on upgrading to get ready for a system just like this.
TVA's Scott Brooks on the Chris Hand Show today. TVA wants customers to turn down the thermostat 2 or 3 degrees to help with the demand. Former President Donald Trump is expected back in court Wednesday. Trump is expected back in the New York courtroom for his defamation trial involving writer E. Jean Carroll. She is expected to take the stand. The jury is deciding whether damages should be awarded. For comments Trump made about Carroll's sexual assault allegations, he was already found liable for sexually abusing her. North Korea's foreign minister in Russia is amid growing concerns among the two countries could strike an arms deal. ABC's Ines Lecutera has more on the foreign desk.
North Korea's Foreign Minister Choi Son-hui arriving in Moscow for a 3-day visit, according to North Korean state TV KCNA. This comes after the U.S. and South Korea say Pyongyang has been sending Russia weapons, including artillery and missiles. The U.S. saying it has evidence missiles provided by North Korea have been used by Russia in Ukraine. In September, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un took a rare trip to Russia to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin, though it's still unclear what kind of deal the two leaders may have struck.
Consumer news you need to know. Costco is testing out a system that requires members to scan their membership cards at the store entrance instead of just flashing the card to employees. This comes as a retail giant aims to decrease the number of non-members who are sneaking in with membership cards that don't belong to them, particularly since the company has expanded to a self-checkout. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm John Michael, WTN News.
Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy. Let's talk about Safe House and what they can do for you when it comes to safeguarding the things that safeguard your family. Mark at the Safe House wants to talk with you. I mean, any time of the year, but nowadays he understands that it, in the aftermath of the Christmas holiday season, things are calming down, getting back to a sense of normalcy. Well, if you've noticed that your safe isn't cutting it, if you've noticed that it's full, if you don't have one and you want to protect those weapons that protect your family, those Second Amendment items that protect your family, it's time to get yourself a safe from Nashville Safe House. And Mark wants to help. Now, he's got these biometric things. Man, oh man, I love these things. We gave away a couple of them when we celebrated his 30th anniversary. It's biometric, where you put your hand and put your fingerprints on it, and it opens for you. These are for the bedside, especially for family members who have young ones, and you want to keep those young ones away from that which can hurt them, but you want ready access to them. That's the way to do it. Mark and Nashville Safe House can help in that regard. Whatever your need, whether it's a large corporate safe, maybe it's a small jewelry safe, anything in between. Remember, gun safes are sales tax free at Nashville Safe House and will be throughout 2024 and for the foreseeable future. So get with Mark and his team. Whatever your brand might be, they've got it for you at Nashville Safe House. Go to NashvilleSafeHouse.com to do some perusing online, but better yet, go into the showroom and see the hundreds of safes in stock at Nashville Safe House. Conveniently located on 4th Avenue South, right across the street from City Cemetery. Tell Mark and his team that Matt Murphy sent you to Nashville Safe House. It is 2:05. Good afternoon. Almost 2:06 now. Mark that time. 2:06 to be precisely on my mark. Mark. Good afternoon. Welcome. My name is Matt, not Mark. On Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy and you. Bell K's behind the glass, making sure that everything that comes out of our speakers runs as good as humanly possible. John Michael's in the newsroom in McMorrie's absence. He's delivering headlines this afternoon, and we appreciate him. You on the phones as well, 615-737-9986. At any point during the proceedings, if you'd like to call in, as Brian did last hour, to offer his opinion on voting irregularities and how to shore up some of said irregularities, then you may do so, 615-737-9986. 615-737-WWTN. You can either do that via the phone lines. You can also super text us at those aforementioned numbers. Plenty of other ways to communicate with the show, and you're also invited to take us wherever you go on your streaming platform of your choice. Just whatever you choose, whatever it might be. Some people go Spotify, some people go iHeart, some people directly go to our app, which I strongly recommend. The SuperTalk app is tip-top. It holds its signal very well, even in the midst of not having Wi-Fi. This morning, I had a great signal on the SuperTalk app. Find us by going over to whatever platform you use. Type in SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. Should be able to find us that way. 615-737-9986. A strongly worded letter from the Department of Homeland Security to the state of Texas is now demanding access to the U.S.-Mexico border on land seized by the state in Eagle Pass. You see, the Department of Homeland Security apparently has an ability to do something about border security when it comes to the state of Texas trying to secure said border. They don't have any ability to stop the flood of hundreds of thousands, nay, millions of people voting, or millions of people coming in to our United States of America. They don't have any ability, according to them. Hey, we're trying our best, they say. And when the state of Texas takes over and actually does something, then they step in and decide that they're going to get busy. DHS officials ordered the state of Texas to cease and desist, not just cease, not just desist, cease and desist. You know it's serious when it's both. Its efforts to block Border Patrol's access in and around Shelby Park and to, quote, remove all barriers to access by the end of the day on January the 17th. That's today. According to DHS General Counsel Jonathan Meyer, Texas and their actions are clearly unconstitutional, and they are actively disrupting the federal government's operation. This in a letter to the Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. Can I hear you in there? I can hear someone. Well, I'm glad that the news pleased John Michael. If it had displeased him, we might have heard him muttering under his breath in some fashion. But apparently, it was just the tippy tap of a keyboard that I heard from the news closet. I knew I heard something. I just wanted to warn against what might could happen if that went unchecked. DHS General Counsel Jonathan Meyer wrote in a letter to Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. Here's the upshot. The federal government has no interest in doing anything about our southern border security. They have defied efforts on the part of Texas and other states to do something about it on their own. And the only time that you see action from the Department of Homeland Security, the only time you see Alejandro Mayorkas passionate about anything is when the states take it upon themselves to do that which the federal government steadfastly claims they cannot do. But we all know the reality. They don't want to do anything about it. They don't want to solve the border crisis. They don't want to secure the southern border. And anytime you question them on it, they immediately start talking about immigration policy. Immigration policy and border security are two different things. And you know that you're talking to someone who wants to lie and deceive you. They want to lie to you and to deceive you when, if asked a question about border security, they respond saying something about immigration policy. And we've seen it time and time and time again. Hey, what are you going to do about border security? Well, we've tried to get funding from the Republicans on our immigration policy. Shut up. Shut up. The recent actions by the state of Texas, I'm reading here from the council's letter, their very seriously worded letter to the Texas Attorney General. The recent actions by the state of Texas have impeded operations by the Border Patrol. Those actions conflict with the authority and duties of Border Patrol under federal law and are preempted under the Supremacy Clause of the Constitution. The use of the word impeded by DHS General Counsel could imply a threat of criminal action against officers and agents of the state of Texas who are carrying out the orders of Governor Abbott to secure Shelby Park and prevent Border Patrol's entry into the area. Here's what I want to see. So you have an impasse. The state of Texas says you're not doing anything about this. So you know what? You're a problem. Why don't you stay out of here and we're going to do something about it on our own. On the evening of January 11th, the Texas Military Department seized Shelby Park in Eagle Pass and expelled Border Patrol agents. Border Patrol officials tells Breitbart, Texas, that the Texas National Guard units quickly moved into Shelby Park in Eagle Pass. The guardsmen then erected barriers around the park and instructed the Border Patrol to leave the area. The following night, a Mexican migrant woman and two small children drowned in the Rio Grande near Shelby Park. Mexican officials rescued other migrants in distress and recovered the bodies of the three drowned migrants. Biden administration officials, of course, immediately blamed Governor Abbott and the state of Texas and their decision to keep Border Patrol agents from accessing the park. Abbott responded, called the claims wholly inaccurate, and I'm sure that they were. Plenty of people are dying because of the inability or the unwillingness on the part of the Department of Homeland Security and Alejandro Mayorkas. Their inability and unwillingness to do anything about any of this. So Biden administration officials and U.S. Representative Henry Culler blamed the drownings on Governor Abbott. The DHS letter continues to push the assertion that the access to the park contributed to the migrant drownings, despite the fact that the Texas Military Department says that was not so, that it was an unfortunate coincidence. Here's what I would like to see. I understand that the Constitution gives the federal government the ultimate authority to secure our border to the south and to the north and to the east and to the west. They're not doing their job. So my question is, what are they going to do about the state of Texas? I mean, honestly, if Texas says no, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? I assume they'll do something. But what? What, are you sending your army down? We've been asking for the army for a while now. Send someone, anyone, more Border Patrol? Yeah, that would be good. Maybe if you asserted yourself in actually protecting the southern border in the same way that you assert yourself when the state of Texas tries to do the same thing, we would actually have border security. Instead, it's a free-for-all, an absolute free-for-all. Phil's in Nashville. We'll get to you in moments, Phil. Oh, look who's on the line. My man Cameron Smith is joining us today via the phone on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Cameron, I hope you're safe and secure.
I am secure, but this white stuff on the ground and the negative temperatures, Matt, it's unconscionable, and no Southerner should have to endure it.
I would expect better from you, being a boy born of Nashville, Tennessee. I mean, considering the level of global warming that Republicans and conservatives have been responsible for, according to the Biden administration, over the last, 20, 25 years, I would think when you were growing up there would have been a lot more of this than there is today, yet you seem unable to handle it, frankly. Were you in Alabama too long?
Yes, I'm very pro-global warming. I like it warmer, and I'm very favorable towards that. I like to grow things. These people who want a colder climate, I mean, what's great about snow? What do you grow in snow? Nothing. You just get sadness and heartache, and that's all this stuff brings. And it's fun. Okay, the Beast and I were out. We did our sledding. We did our thing. That's fine. But pretty quickly, the boys looked at me and said, well, now what? And I said, I don't know. I don't know how people deal with this for more than a day or two because I've never had to.
Oh, good gracious. We are so spoiled. I mean, I tell you. Where are you still in Nolensville?
I made it as far as Cool Springs. There are streets that are uncovered. I'm about to consume a burger with my family because, we just started to run out of food, and frankly, we were going to murder each other. So we decided we'd rather take our chances with our car spinning out of control and have a family burger instead.
Well, I'm glad to know that you're with the family. If you have to die due to the cold weather conditions, at least you have family there with you when you all perish collectively. I think you'll be okay, by the way.
I think we might, but this was probably a plot by my boys, thinking like if push comes to shove, this snow doesn't go away and we get stuck, and they have to eat the parents. So that was really what they were thinking.
Where are you? Let's give a free plug to this burger joint. Where are you going in Cool Springs?
I'm at Burger Up. They have some very, very good burgers, and it's not particularly crowded right now, if you would believe that.
Imagine that. I can't believe you didn't wait till 3 o'clock and invited Bel K and myself, but that's okay. That's all right. We'll make do without you, Cameron. You are completely dismissing your stated and slated duties on the Matt Murphy Show for a burger instead. I'm beginning to believe like this was a pre-planned skipping of our appointed duties and rounds on this Wednesday afternoon. I'm beginning to believe
Look,
that.
I learned to neglect my duties from Joe Biden. If it's good enough for the President of the United States, I can do it too.
Doc Cameron's pay.
Yeah, I'm going to dock your pay. You're not going to get paid for your appearance here today.
That is shockingly terrible. I don't know how I will soldier on.
Well, we haven't had a chance to. While I've got you on the line, I might as well keep you away from your hamburger or cheeseburger. By the way, I believe that you're un-American unless you are lactose intolerant if you don't put cheese on your hamburger. I know people that do this way. You're a cheese guy on your hamburger, right?
Yeah, I'm not a communist.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't even understand why we have hamburger options anymore, except for those special people who, for some reason, are allergic to cows. But that said, I want to keep you away from that for a minute. Any takeaways from Iowa? It was what we expected, right? The big question was whether Trump gets 50% plus, and he obviously did.
Yeah, my favorite was Nikki Haley. I like to call balls and strikes. And when Nikki Haley gets up and said, well, this is narrowed to a two-person race now, I'm sort of like, okay, I hear you, but you finished third. And I get what she's saying. Like, DeSantis doesn't have a great path forward. But, like, the follow-on is, well, neither do you. And so we'll see. I suspect we'll see Haley do well in New Hampshire. and we'll do this for a little while longer. But again, and I've said this on the air with you, that the enthusiasm for Trump is so far and above what it is for Haley or anybody else that it's just going to be almost impossible for that to get momentum and start going. And I think Trump's game plan is, let's see if we can kill this in its infancy so I don't have to deal with any Haley headache. But right now, I don't think he has to. I don't see it.
Do you believe DeSantis makes it to past South Carolina as an official candidate, or after New Hampshire, does he throw his hands up and recognize that anything that he's doing? I mean, I don't know. I don't want to tell campaigns what to do with their money that's been given to them. But Ron DeSantis spent $36 million in Iowa, and he won nothing.
Right. I mean, the amount of money that DeSantis is setting on fire for the fact that, hey, you're bolstering a candidate that just he can't even smile right. I mean, he's got some challenges. I understand he's reformed MAGA. I saw that on a tweet, and I thought it was brilliant, that he's the reform MAGA. And, Haley's sort of classic Republican. Vivek was Orthodox MAGA and Trump's original MAGA. But right now, until that field collapses, and I think it's going to collapse around Haley and Trump, the question is there any sort of viable competition? And I just don't see it, and I just don't think it's going to be DeSantis. I know that hurts some folks out there who are big DeSantis fans. I'm not saying he's a bad guy. I'm just saying I don't think he's got the goods to last much longer. I think he's probably going to get smoked in New Hampshire. I mean, I don't think he's going to do well in South Carolina. And then the question is, well, why? Why are you still here? And I don't think he's got a good answer.
You know what? And this was after Iowa, I came to a conclusion that Ron DeSantis governs like Trump, but he campaigns like Romney.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's a very good statement because he's just not affable on – it's like he doesn't want to be there. Like he can't be bothered. He's just like, I'm here. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. He governed Florida well. I don't think there's any issue there. And I think you and I have discussed that he was very good as a governor. But you got to have that entertainment quality these days. You got to have something that's engaging. And I do think what probably happens is by South Carolina, DeSantis is out. Haley probably hangs on, and she says, okay, we're going to give it one last push to try to be the alternative to Trump. And if Trump is then clearing 60%, something like that, she'll be gone quickly too. If she can make it a 50-50 toss-up, she may hang around a while. If she can't do that, this is done.
I agree with the analysis. Hang on for a second because I have to read you some of the response that I'm getting based on the fact that you chose a hamburger or a cheeseburger in this case over the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk. We're getting several super texters respond to this, and Cameron Smith needs to listen to it. Phil will get you Phil in Nashville. I almost said in Valentine. Why did I say that? I don't know. Because I'm thinking of Phil Valentine. When I see the word Phil, I naturally think of Valentine. Phil is in Nashville, wants to talk about mail-in voting. We'll get to you as well. It's 2:22 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. TB says DeSantis, his boots are pinching his feet. It's why he doesn't smile. I have another theory about DeSantis that I'll share with Cameron, see what he thinks about it in a moment. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Want to talk with you about your health care and yourhealthplanman.com. If you're enrolled in a plan and you don't like it, if you don't currently have health insurance, if you're on COBRA, or if you're just sick of the employer contribution versus your contribution on your current plan, did you know that Your Health Plan Man's Freedom of Choice plan puts most of the coverage up front with no deductible? You pick your doctors. It's 30 to 60% lower in cost than Obamacare, and it's available, hear me now, year-round. to those who qualify. The plans have nothing to do with your income. There's no surprise at tax time. I know Pat Davis. Pat Davis helped my wife get health insurance coverage in the aftermath of her leaving work down in Birmingham, and I'm so pleased with what they came up with. So if you're paying for your own health insurance, if you're on COBRA, if you're uninsured, call Pat Davis and his team. Your health plan man wants to hear from you. 855-4PLAN-MAN. 855-4PLAN-MAN. Or go to yourhealthplanman.com. That's yourhealthplanman.com to find out if coverage is available for you right now in January without having to wait for open enrollment periods. It's yourhealthplanman.com. That's yourhealthplanman.com.
Still dangerously cold in Nashville. That's causing havoc at the airport and a key meeting at the White House today. These stories and more at 2:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, John Michael. It's 2:26 right now, almost 2:27. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We are spending as much time as possible with Cameron Smith on the line because any moment that he's on the line with us, we prevent him from eating his delicious cheeseburger. What did you order there? Have you ordered yet, Cameron, or are you waiting to do so after our phone conversation?
Oh, no, I ordered a sweet heat chicken sandwich, fried chicken sandwich. I wanted heat. It's cold. It's very cold, dangerously so even.
Have you had any of it yet, or are you waiting?
No, I like you torturing me and standing between me and my food. It's very exciting.
All right. So speaking of torturing you, there are several that are commenting online. Can I read Jason's? Jason writes in and says, it might be wrong of me to believe this, but I think just like my wife, Cameron is faking it today.
That's also, I don't know how to respond to Jason, and he always puts us in these positions.
Okay,
always. Jason was always Jason.
Remember, Jason was claiming earlier that he could turn Rachel Maddow.
Was he now?
Yes.
Well.
So there's a lot of hyperbole going on with Jason's text.
I didn't know that Jason went for fellows, but okay, sure. 9630 writes in and says, Leroy the custodian probably told Cameron not to come into the studio so he would not be seen today on Super Talk TV. I don't think that's fair, but, maybe.
He's not here today.
I try to hide my face with my beard so you don't have to look at it. So I'm trying to do you guys a favor.
John writes in and says, has Cameron Smith already put a lid on today? I mean, you're getting like Joe Biden here. You got a lid on it. It's 2:30.
Look, I've learned from the best. I've learned that you don't have to do your job, that when you decide you don't like the criticism, you send out a person called a press secretary to just come out and say nothing. And that's my next step is just I need to find a press secretary. My 9-year-old Hayden seems very equipped, so he will probably, any time now emerge to say, well, what is really the case is that I'm there, but you're just a racist. And
that's right. We're doing our best.
That's what I learned from Biden.
And then finally, John writes in and says, no, I'm sorry, I just did John. Ray, our good friend Ray, has written in. And Ray says that I'm sure Cameron eats a plant-based burger, like his buddy Mitt would.
Ray, I don't know why you're dogging Mitt's burger choices. I don't know what kind of burgers they eat in Utah, but like plant burgers, it's not a thing. It's just not a thing, and we just need to call it that.
I will say this. I love a delicious burger, and I'm a meat guy, and I love all the meats. I'm all about the meats. But I have had an Impossible Burger. I have had a plant-based hamburger. Have you had one, Cameron?
I don't know.
It's good. It tastes good. I mean, I'm sorry. It tastes great. The Impossible Burger is good. I'm not saying that it's the answer to all of our problems. I'm saying it's good.
I just don't like ground beef. If it were left up to me, I would just put a steak on bread. Like, I don't need somebody to pre-chew it for me. I have teeth still. So, I mean, moving it to plants is just too far for me.
Wait. We buried the lead. You don't like ground beef?
It's fine. It's just one of lower order meat forms. And so if you can get me like a good piece of steak, I mean, put a flank steak on a burger, I'm there.
You realize that Ray is currently doing cartwheels in his house right now because you're confirming everything he's always believed about your conservative elitism.
Yes. Like Mitt Romney, I don't prefer people chew my meat before they put it on bread.
I'm really surprised you don't have somebody that chews it for you and then kind of like a baby bird, puts it in your mouth for you. Look, I got to go. John Michael's looking at me funny because he's late on the news. You probably are getting a cold chicken sandwich there. So go eat your chicken sandwich. Let us know how it turns out, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Y'all stay safe. See you.
All right, man. See you. There's Cameron Smith joining us for a few moments. Phil, we'll get to you momentarily. It's 2:31. Right now, John Michael in the newsroom with headlines as we speak on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's 2:30. I'm John Michael with your top stories. Weather forecast on the way in 2 minutes. Although conditions are improving in the mid-state, dangerously cold temperatures are making travel difficult on the roads and in the skies. Thousands of flights have been delayed or canceled. Alex Stone is watching flight data.
Around 1,000 flights have been canceled today and nearly 3,000 more delayed. Better than Tuesday, but still many travelers are being impacted. United, Southwest, and Alaska Airlines have the most canceled flights. Nashville, Buffalo, and Chicago Midway are the airports most heavily impacted.
Alaska and United are getting hit by a double whammy because their Boeing 737 MAX 9 planes are still grounded. President Biden has summoned the 4 top leaders of Congress to the White House today, including House Speaker Mike Johnson, as a funding deadline looms. If Congress doesn't act by midnight Friday, funding will run out for programs under 4 of 12 bills. Programs under the other 8 bills, including defense spending, are set to run out 2 weeks later on February 2nd. Ali Pecorin has more.
The good news is the ball has already started rolling to try to kick the can down the road and buy Congress a little bit more time to work out longer-term funding solutions. The Senate voted last night, the first in a series of procedural steps, to extend the government funding deadline through March. But that actually still doesn't address the longer-term issues with government funding that have plagued this Congress for several months now.
Conservative members of Congress want more border security measures in any temporary spending deal. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm John Michael, WTN News.
You know, speaking of spots, have you noticed when you look into the mirror that you've got spots in your hairline that you previously did not see spots? Have you noticed that you have thinning in the hair and you don't know what to do about it? Perhaps you've tried some of the over-the-counter stuff and it just doesn't work. Whatever the reason for your hair loss, why not contact simply the best in the business when it comes to getting that hair growth back where you want it to be with PAI Medical. Let's talk about it. Friends, 2024 can be the year that you grow your hair back. It's Matt Murphy for PAI Medical and We Grow Hair. We Grow Hair is the only company in the state of Tennessee to have the PAI multi-unit hair grafting procedure. That's important. I'll tell you why in just a moment. It's a trademark procedure. Gives you more hair in one procedure. I'll go ahead and tell you right now. That saves you time and it saves you money, and that's important. I understand you're a baller on a budget and you need more hair growth quickly and less expensively, and you can get it with PAI and We Grow Hair. Call them right now. Look, it's not going to solve itself, guys. And most men wait way too long to deal with this issue. So if you're looking for more hair growth, if you're seeing the bald spots, if you're seeing the patches, you need to deal with that. You do so by going to WeGrowHair.com to find out more information. WeGrowHair.com. I've been there. They're great. Located in Brentwood. What a fabulous company, a fabulous organization. They've been around since for 26 years, as a matter of fact, in Nashville. 615-376-6010. 376-6010 for We Grow Hair. I promise you, it'll be right for you. Give them a call today and mention my name when you do. Go to WeGrowHair.com. Hey, guys, something that affects at least 50% of men as men get older is something that men don't like to talk about. But look, I'm here to talk about those things that make you a little uncomfortable, and I understand it. We're talking about issues in the bedroom. Okay, and I'm not going to go any further than that. You know what we're discussing when we talk about issues in the bedroom, and it is fair enough that half the guys in this population will experience some level of this. What I express to you is your ability to change that dynamic through Tennessee Men's Clinic. Look, there's nothing to put off. There's nothing to be ashamed about, and it's not something that you want to wait on. The average guy waits a year and a half to 2 years after he notices issues before he does something about this. And I understand that guys hate going to the doctor. That's why Tennessee Men's Clinic makes it so easy. They were created in 2014, and since then they've been helping men just like you for well over a decade. The urologists and providers at the Tennessee Men's Clinic have done this all day, every day. It's what they do. It's what they specialize in. So they make it as easy as possible. They've seen it. They've done that, and they can help. Whether it's general energy, and they help a lot of people in that regard too that have not noticed issues in the bedroom, you can get in front of it by getting that T-level checked today. Guys, it's time to feel amazing. It's time to hit your goals in the gym. It's time to feel more energetic in 2024 through the Tennessee Men's Clinic. Give them a call at 615-208-9090, 615-208-9090, or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com online and book an appointment today. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you to the one and only Tennessee Men's Clinic. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. John writes in and says, why is it that, why did I lose this? Why is it that, oh, there it is. Why is Cam funnier when he isn't there? This is actually not John. It's 4209. Why is Cam funnier when he's not there? He should always fill in from Wilson's truck. Well, I'm not one to nominate Wilson's truck for anything, but the Red Radio Flyer, I believe, is ready, willing, and able to take anyone anywhere you want to go and broadcast from said location at any time that Brian Wilson chooses. Hey, Matt, fake burgers are full of nasty, toxic chemicals. Most hamburger meat is full of nasty, toxic chemicals as well. If you're not buying your meat from locally sourced folks or whatnot. I mean, that's all good. I mean, 0214, I'm not here to promote fake hamburger meat. I'm telling you, I've had an Impossible Burger, and it tasted good. That's all I'm telling you. I'm amazed at the number of people that want to push back at simple things like this. Let's not make a matter of taste a matter of fact. And I'm just telling you, if you've never tried it, I understand that it's no replacement, and you're not going to save the planet by doing any of this. I'm telling you that modern technology is pretty incredible. And, oh, by the way, before y'all come after me, that's not natural. That's not natural. I'm set to tick a lot of people off when I say this. Do you eat chicken? Where do you get your chicken? If you're not raising your chicken yourself, and if you've not gone through generation after generation after generation of self-raised chicken, I mean, have you ever seen a chicken from like 1940? A photograph of what a chicken looked like back in the day and what they look like now? Come on, man. Ann writes in and says, we only eat deer meat. But she misspelled. Wait, Ann, what do you mean? We only eat deer meat, like deer meat. Thank you for letting us eat you. She spelled deer D-E-A-R. Love you, Ann. Plant burgers are the equivalent of transgender women. Yeah, what I don't understand about vegetarians is why everything that they consume, they have to form and make like meat. Like, if you don't want to eat meat, that's fine. I don't care. Live your own life. You know, it's a free country. You can do whatever you want to do. But why does everything have to be, oh, look, it's tofurkey. It's tofu, but it looks like turkey. Or it's a meat burger.
Plant-based chicken nuggets. It's
right.
Like,
I mean,
the point?
Well, just call it something else. I mean, you're obviously recognizing that most people love meat. Yes, Ann, I know that you spelled it wrong. It's okay. I was just picking on you. Don't get mad at me. I'm just relating to you that I gave it a go. I think it was at Burger King. I went and had an Impossible Burger, and I thought it was pretty good. It does not mean that I'm going to eat them with any regularity, because I like meat. And I like normal hamburgers. Thank you very much. All right. In the meantime, some unrelated, non-political news. We'll get back to politics in just... Oh, before I do that, Phil's been holding on in Nashville. Phil, thank you for your patience. God bless you, sir. I appreciate you so much. You're on the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk. What's on your mind?
On my mind is the mail-in ballot. And for the mail-in ballot to work right, I think they ought to have a copy of your photo ID, and it should be notarized by a notary public, because if you want to do a mail-in ballot, that way we know you are who you are, and it's a binding legal document.
Yeah, mail-in balloting is, for whatever reason, an extension of absentee voting. I think absentee voting works perfectly fine. You go, you get the absentee ballot, you present your identification when you do that, and then you send it in at a time of your choosing if you know that you're not going to be where you need to be to vote at the time that voting takes place. I've got no issue with absentee balloting. I think the mail-in voting should just be, I agree with you, Phil, that we need to be able to identify people that are engaged in the mail-in voting. What I would prefer is that we just eliminate mail-in voting altogether.
I agree.
Well, I love the concept, and I appreciate the call, Phil. Thank you for waiting to make it. I appreciate you very much, and have a great afternoon, sir. 244 Super Talk 99.7 WTM. A couple of matters that we've not gotten to. The Biden administration is now officially redesignating the Houthis as a terrorist organization after reversing Donald Trump's designation of the Houthis as a terrorist organization and saying that they weren't a terrorist organization. They now, again, are saying that they're a terrorist organization. Everybody got that? A Biden administration official called the Houthi attacks, quote, unacceptable, and said sanctions are a part of a, quote, broader effort to deter the Yemeni group. Obviously, they're being funded by the Iranians. Iranian money has been freed up by the Biden administration. No word on whether or not they're going to try to get that money back away from the Iranian government so as to use it for terrorist activity. The Houthis will be once again placed on the specially designated global terrorist list, which triggers sanctions designed to prevent further attacks on global trade in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. I mentioned this yesterday as I was filling in for Brian Wilson on The Drive, that this is a financial burden as well as a terrorist operation, because there are companies that are now refusing to move through the Red Sea for fear that their ships will be attacked, and so they have to go around Africa. When they do that, it adds an extreme amount of cost to their travels, and they pass that cost along to whom? To you. That's right, to you. Then there's this. I don't know Coach Todd Bowles. I just became aware of him yesterday. Now, I've seen him on the sidelines. I watch a little NFL football from time to time. I don't dedicate every Sunday afternoon to it, but I watch, and I've enjoyed becoming a fan of the Tennessee Titans. Todd Bowles, I don't know, he's a second-year coach at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay beat the Philadelphia Eagles the other night, and they move on to the second round of the playoffs. I have two clips from Todd Bowles. The first is it's my second favorite. I can't help but absolutely love the Detroit clip. All right, listen up. As Todd Bowles is for those who don't know, let me just kind of set the scene. Todd Bowles is an African-American man. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers just beat the Philadelphia Eagles. He is about to be asked a question about Mike Tomlin. Do you know who Mike Tomlin is? Mike Tomlin is the head football coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's the longest tenured head football coach in the NFL now that Bill Belichick was let go. Mike Tomlin is also an African-American. This is the press conference after the Tampa Bay Buccaneers beat the Eagles, and he's being asked a question about Mike Tomlin. The Bucs aren't playing the Steelers. The Steelers are out of the playoffs. There's no reason to ask this question. It's completely out of place. Listen to the question and enjoy the answer.
You and Mike Tomlin are two of the few black head coaches in the league. I wonder what your relationship is like with them and your thoughts on Steve Wilkes joining that fold.
I have a very good relationship.
Okay, did you hear the question? I want to make sure you heard the question. You and Mike Tomlin are one of the few African-American head coaches in the league. I'm wondering if you could comment on his relationship. The nature of the question is racist. What, black folks only associate with black folks now?
Well, they go to the same union meetings.
Apparently so. This initial question is ridiculous. His answer is great. The follow-up question that comes after it is embarrassing and cringy.
Relationship with Tomlin, we don't look at what color we are when we coach against each other. We just know each other. I have a lot of very good white friends that coach in this league as well, and I don't think it's a big deal as far as us coaching against each other. I think it's normal. Wilkes got an opportunity to do a good job. Hopefully he does it. And we coach ball. We don't look at color.
But you also understand that representation matters too, right? And that when young aspiring coaches or even football players, they see you guys, they see someone that looks like them, maybe grew up like them, that has to mean something.
Well, when you say you see you guys and look like them and grow up like them, means that we're oddballs to begin with. And I think the minute you guys stop making a big deal about it, everybody else will as well.
I love you, Coach Bowles.
Spank.
I love it. Absolutely love it. The cringy nature of the follow-up. The leftist reporter sitting there goes, no, that's not good enough. He's like, I don't see color when I coach ball. I'm coaching ball. And we've got opportunities, and we're going to make the most of it. And I got white coach friends, too. Yeah, but you understand the significance. I mean, there's significance. There's only significance because you demand that there be significance. How about we get beyond all of this? Thank you, Coach Bowles.
Did they have the team doctor check her out for injuries after that beatdown?
Oh man, I love it. I'm going to replay it. I love it so much. He's putting his hand in his head, or his head in his hand when she's asking the.
Young aspiring coaches or even football players, they see you guys, they see someone that looks like them, maybe grew up.
By the way, she said, aspiring coaches or football players. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the majority of NFL football players are black, right? I mean,
I would assume so, but I don't know that to be fact.
I've not seen the percentages, but I'm just doing the eyeball test. And I don't begrudge that from being the case. It's a meritocracy when it comes to the NFL.
That has to mean something.
Well, when you say you see you guys and look like them and grow up like them, means that we're oddballs to begin with. And I think the minute you guys stop making a big deal about it, everybody else will as well.
I absolutely love the answer. I love what is behind the answer, and there is a good reason why Coach Bowles is doing well with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with that attitude. But it gets better. That is not even my favorite clip from Coach Bowles over the last 48 hours. That was in the initial aftermath of his victory over the Philadelphia Eagles. Now he's held a press conference. He held one yesterday, and one of the reporters wanted to ask him about warm weather squads like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers playing in cold weather. I'm going to play this clip without comment, except to say, well, I'll play without comment. Coach Bowles will answer the question appropriately. Go.
Coach, looking forward towards Detroit. The weather has been a factor in some of the playoff games, even for the most prepared teams. Today, it's 13 in Detroit, which doesn't compare to some of the temperatures the team has got to. Any special plans to acclimate the team to not only endure, but perform in those kind of frigid temperatures should you face them in Detroit?
Everybody hear the question? So the weather's been a factor in some of these playoff games, Coach, and you're about to play Detroit, and it's cold. It's 13 degrees in Detroit right now. And have you made special preparations? I just love it when leftists – I mean, I don't even know if this woman's a leftist. I love it when reporters ask stupid questions. I don't know why I love it so much. If you don't know why this question is such a stupid question, listen to the answer.
You do know we play indoors, right? And they got a dome. I don't. No, nothing planned. We're indoors, and we only have to be outside for 20 seconds, getting off the bus, going under the thing, so we'll be okay.
The tone in his voice just reeks of, you're an idiot.
You do know. Oh, I want to do it again.
They got a dome. I don't.
You should say he puts his head on the podium and his eyes he widens his eyes like I don't know how to answer this question.
What do I do with this
without completely and totally embarrassing you? But I'll just move forward with completely and totally embarrassing you. He is my new favorite head football coach until the Tennessee Titans have a head football coach. It's 53 after the hour on Super Talk.